All right, here we go. We have New Jack in the building today. Welcome to VladTV.
What's good, man?
Well, listen, I put out a social media tweet and I said, what's the next wrestler that we should interview? And the majority of people said New Jack.
That's what's up.
Yeah. And then when I got into your whole story, it was just absolutely insane.
Right.
Well, so let's go ahead and get into the story. So you were born in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Yeah.
Okay. And at a very early age, you realize you're in a really tumultuous family.
Yeah.
So before the actual, shootings and stabbings started to occur, like, what do you remember about your father and mother's relationship?
They had a terrible relationship. My father was an alcoholic, and my mom, she cheated on him all the time. And they would fight all the fucking time. You know what I mean?
Okay. Do you have siblings?
Yeah.
Okay. And were they older, younger?
I'm the youngest.
You're the youngest. Okay. So
Yeah.
so you're was it brothers, sisters?
One sister and three brothers.
Okay. So them being older, how were they reacting to the craziness in the family?
Well, my two older brothers, they was in the military. So they was gone. So it was just my brother and my sister and me in the house. And that's basically it, you know what I mean?
Okay. So then there was a situation where your dad stabbed your mother 5 times in front of the whole family.
Yeah.
What led up to that?
She was cheating on my pops. And somebody called him and told him that they saw her in the car with somebody. And when she came home from work, he stabbed her. He stabbed her like 5 times right in front of the whole family. You know what I mean?
Okay. How many people were in the house to see this?
Me, my brother, and my sister.
Okay. Now, how old were you at the time?
5.
Okay. So as a 5-year-old, here you're seeing your dad stab your mom and there's blood everywhere. How are you reacting?
I mean, it was a long time ago, you know what I mean? But I was crying, and I was asking him why, you know what I mean? I mean, that was 50-something years ago. So, I mean, my memory is kind of off right now, you know what I'm saying?
Right. Do you remember how your mom was reacting?
She was screaming. He stabbed her, she was screaming, and she was trying to get away from him.
Okay. Did she get away?
Yeah. And they called the
Okay.
ambulance, and they came and got her, took her to the hospital.
Okay, so your dad actually stayed and got her to the hospital?
My dad went to jail.
Okay. Did your mom press charges, or was it just one of those things where it just didn't matter who pressed charges?
It didn't matter. It didn't matter. That was back in the 60s, you know what I mean? It was like black on black crime was the thing. They didn't give a, you know what I'm saying?
Okay. How long was your dad locked up for at that point?
I remember him going to jail, and the next day he was out.
Oh, really? So they just let him out for stabbing his own wife?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So she probably didn't press charges.
Probably, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, and then 5 months later, your mother tried to, I guess, leave and take the kids with her?
She tried to take me with her, and my dad was like, he wasn't having it. So when she went to put me in the car, he shot her in the leg. And she dropped me in the car. And the cops came, he went to jail again, but he got right back out.
Okay. Well, and I guess your dad passed away not too long after that?
Yeah.
Oh,
He
what from?
died when I was 5.
Yeah. Yeah. How did he die?
Heart attack.
Okay. When you found out that your dad had passed away, were you upset? Were you relieved? I mean, being in that type of situation.
I mean, I love my dad, you know what I mean? Me and my dad got along good. So when he died, I mean, I was sad. You know what I mean?
Okay. So now it's just your mom, you, and I guess your sister.
Yeah.
What was that? What was that household like after your dad was gone?
My mom would have a different guy in the house every night. You know what I mean? It was like somebody's husband she was sleeping with, you know, and it was just crazy. We had to listen to her have sex in the house, and it was like nuts, you know. And I just wanted to get out of there, you know.
Okay. Was she abusive to you at all, or some of the men that would come by?
Yeah,
Okay, like what would happen?
she would beat me. She beat the shit out of me, you know what I mean? It was like all the time. She whooped my ass all the time for no goddamn reason.
Okay. And I guess to this day, you and your mom really don't get along.
No, not at all.
Yeah, understandable. So, at what point did you leave the house?
I went to jail in the 12th grade. Coming out of high school, I went to jail. And I did 2 years in prison for armed robbery and an aggravated assault. So I left then, and when I got out of jail, I went to college and got me an apartment and played football.
Okay. And going to jail for armed robbery and assault, was that something that you were doing on a regular basis by that point?
Yeah, we was robbing people every weekend. It was like a goddamn sport. I mean, we would get a carload of my boys to get together, and we would go and just rob people. And people at the school, they all knew what we was doing. You know what I mean? But we didn't give a. We was out robbing, and we go to the store and buy clothes and shoes and come to school Monday. And everybody dressed sharp. You know what I mean? And everybody knew what we was doing, but we kept doing it.
Okay. In the midst of doing that, what do you think was the craziest situation that occurred?
I don't really remember, but we got in a shootout one time where the guy was shooting at us. You know, didn't nobody have a gun in the car at the time, but the guy he came out the door shooting at us, and we all ran.
Okay. And how did you end up getting caught eventually, when you did the jail time?
They had video surveillance on the building, and somebody was looking at the cameras, and the guy that was doing security was looking at the cameras, and he came out and got the license plate to the car, and they traced it back to us, and we went to jail.
Okay, so you go and do 2 years in prison.
Yeah.
What was the worst part of that?
I mean, it was a learning experience. I mean, every day was something different, and I just dealt with it. And I mean, my first year of college I did in prison. You know what I mean? And I just dealt with it, and I just rolled with it and got through it.
Okay, so then you get out, and then you enroll in college to continue your degree.
Yeah.
Okay, did you end up graduating?
No.
Okay, why'd you drop out?
Because one of the conditions of my parole was to go to school. So I went, but as soon as I came off parole, I dropped out of school and I started driving a truck.
So you're driving trucks, but eventually you get into the bounty hunter business.
Yeah.
What made you get into that?
I had a buddy of mine, he was a bounty hunter and a bondsman, and he was writing bonds, and he asked me that I want to come down and help him, and I told him I would. You know what I mean? It's easy money, So that's what I did. I went and started helping him, and then I got certified, and I started writing bonds, and I became a bounty hunter.
Okay, so that's essentially if someone jumps bail and is wanted, you go out and try to capture that person and bring him back.
Yeah.
Kind of seems like the hardest job in the world.
It was cool with me. I mean, I had a good time doing it. You know what I mean? I had a ball doing it. I made like a lot of money, and I stayed with it for a long time.
Okay, like how many years total did you do it?
About 10.
Oh, okay. So this was really your career for a very long time.
Yeah.
Okay. There were 4 situations where you had a justifiable homicide trying to bring someone back.
That never happened.
Okay, you made that up?
No, I didn't make it up. Somebody else did. Somebody in wrestling in the locker room made it up, and I just went with it. You know what I mean? I was just like, when they want to say I killed somebody, I killed them. You know what I mean? And I thought shit was funny, and for a long time, that was like the running joke. You know what I mean? New Jack killed 4 people. I never killed anybody.
Okay. Well, besides that, that whole situation that never happened, I would assume that bringing people back who are trying to escape the law that have already jumped on, could probably get pretty crazy. Well, what do you think were the craziest situations that you ran into?
I had a guy that I had a bond jump on. He had a failure to appear. He was driving a tractor trailer. And when he found I was looking for him, I was parked on the street that he lived in, that he lived on. And he came down the street and saw me, and he turned around and drove his truck right into my car. And we got out and started fighting, and the cops came and they took him to jail, and I surrendered my bond, and that was it. That was probably one of the craziest ones, you know what I mean, that I did.
Okay. I mean, in general, when you have to apprehend people, does it usually get physical? Does it usually get violent?
Sometimes. I mean, sometimes you get the guy here, he'll just go ahead and surrender. But then again, you had the ones that we used to call jackrabbits. They want to run. You know what I mean? And we would go out and chase them and catch them and beat them up, and put handcuffs on them, put them in the car and take them to jail.
Okay. How much do you usually make off of bringing someone back on average?
In the state was 10%, out of state was 20%. So if I had a $2,000 bond, if I got arrested the guy, I got $200. If I had a $250,000 bond, I got $25,000.
Okay, what was the biggest bond you ever arrested somebody on?
$1 million.
Oh, really? Who was this?
Huh?
Who was that?
I don't remember the guy's name, but he was in Atlanta, and he was
Okay,
on. He had a failure to appear for drug charges, and he had $1 million bond, and
okay, I was gonna say $1 million bond. That must be someone pretty high up in the
yeah
in the ranking there.
Yeah.
Okay, and you brought him back without incident, or was it a?
No, he was cool. He was like, I knew the day was coming. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, yeah, motherfucker, you know you right. You know what I mean? And he was cool with it.
Okay. Well, I mean, in general, someone who's jumping bond is doing anything possible not to get caught.
Right.
So how do you track down somebody who's trying not to even be on the radar at all?
When they get out of jail, they have to go to the bonding company and fill out an information sheet. And this is like relatives, girlfriends, ex-girlfriends, wives, mother, father, brother, sister. And they had to put all the information down on a piece of paper. And we would start right there, and we would be calling around and seeing have they heard from the guy, they got in touch with him, you know what I mean? And then we would go, once we would get a lead, we would go and get the guy.
Okay, you'd have to do surveillance sometimes,
yeah,
that type of thing?
Yeah.
Okay, so here you are, a bounty hunter for 10 years. What made you eventually get out of that business?
I had a buddy that was wrestling, and I was playing semi-pro football at the time. And we had our last game, and he came up to me, and he was like, hey, man, I've been training down at the WCW. He said, won't me and you train, and I can, he said, we become wrestlers. And I was like, at the time, I didn't want nothing to do with it. I was like, man, I don't want to do that. And he was like, no, we can make some money doing it. So I went on and started training with him, and then I met Ray Candy, and I started training with Ray, and he took me under his wing, and he was like, I can teach you a lot, and you'll make a lot of money doing it, and just stick with it. You know what I mean? So I started training with Ray, and that was it. That was the rest of history.
Okay, because before then, you weren't a wrestling fan at all.
No.
Okay, so you never watched WWF? And none of
I
those guys.
watched it sometimes when I was a kid. I watched it sometimes, but I didn't watch it like religiously. I didn't.
Okay. Before you got into it, did you think it was real? It was scripted? Did you know how it worked?
I mean, I knew I had an idea. You know what I'm saying? I had an idea. You know, and when Melvin, the guy that was training me, him and Ray Candy, when they got a hold of me, they was like, you know, we can do this, and you know, you can make some money doing it. And I went to a show at WCW in Atlanta, and I went and bought me a ticket, and I sat up in the nosebleed section, and I was just watching it, and I was studying it. You know what I mean? And I was like, I can do this. You know? So one thing led to another, and I started doing it.
Okay. And your name, New Jack, came from the movie New Jack City.
Right.
Okay. Which is a classic movie, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the best like movies of that genre, period, to this day. In 92, what was the association you started with?
North Georgia Wrestling Alliance.
Okay. And by the next year, you actually won the World Tag Team Championship.
Yeah.
Okay. You and Homeboy was your partner.
Yeah.
Okay. So how did it feel in 1 year to win this championship? Granted, it wasn't the biggest league in the world, but here you are coming up.
I mean, it felt good. It let me know that what I was doing was, you know, I got somebody's eye that wanted to take a look at us. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we came in and we wasn't nobody. We didn't have a name or nothing. You know, so when we started working the USWA and they put the belts on us after 2 weeks, that said a lot.
You win a championship in the smaller league, and then you get a call from Jim Cornette in the Smoky Mountain Wrestling Association.
Right.
Okay. And explain to me what was different about Smoky Mountain than what you were already doing.
Okay, Cornette came out and he was like, New Jack, I need a black tag team. You know, I need a black tag team to work in Smoky Mountain. And that's North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, Kentucky, you know what I mean? So, Ohio. So he was like, do you have a partner? And at the time I didn't, but I knew somebody that I could probably want to be my partner and he would work out for me. So Mustafa, which was my partner, we started tagging, and Cornette offered us a shot to do a tryout in Atlanta. So me and Mustafa went down and we tagged and he liked it. So he was like, I need for y'all to be heels, which is the bad guy. And I was like, okay, cool. And then he said, I need for y'all to be racist. And I was like, all right. I said, well, I think us beating on some white people in Smoky Mountains, being black, that's racist enough. He was like, no, I want y'all to be racist, like just race straight up. Like you hate black people, you hate white people, you hate everybody, you know? So I was like, all right, cool. So my first match, we did an interview, and I went out, and Cornette was like, say something to make white people mad. And I was like, all right, I'll do that, you know? So then he was like, say something about OJ. And that's when the Rodney King thing was really hot, and OJ had killed everybody in California, you know what I mean? So it was a big deal then. So I was like, I cut the promo, and I ended up saying, I want to give a special shout out to my homeboy OJ Simpson. Keep up the good work. Too less to worry about. And they lost their fucking minds. I mean, the cops had to take us to the building and pick us up, and we would have to go to the police station when we were doing the shows up there, and it's crazy. You know what I mean? And I mean, I had a teal green Corvette with a Malcolm X license plate on the front, and we was like, that was the back then, and Ricky Morton was like, New Jack, you need to get like a $200 car. You know what I mean? And I was like, for what? He was like, they gonna tear up your goddamn vet. So I went out and bought a $300 van, and that's what we was driving to the shows in.
Okay. And I guess at one point, you actually brought in a white baby doll into the ring with a noose around its neck.
I had some dental work done, so my jaw was fucked up and I couldn't really talk. So I told Mustafa, I said, let's go to Walmart I said, I need to go by there and buy something. He said, what? I said, just go with me. So we went, and he was like, what you gonna get? I said, a white baby doll. She was like, for what? I was like, trust me, just play along with it, just trust me. So we went, and I bought the white baby doll, and I put a noose around his neck. And when I got in the ring, I didn't cut a promo. I just held up the baby doll. And it was hanging from the rope, and Mustafa was hitting him with a bat, you know what I mean? And they lost their minds.
I guess what I never realized when you talk about some of these smaller leagues, especially down south, is how unbelievably racist the audience is, especially when you're kind of riling them up with a lot of these, anti-white kind of antics.
Right.
So basically the audience was calling you the N-word, with a hard R every time you were in the ring, right?
Yeah.
So how does a black man really deal with this level of abuse?
Well, I told Ricky Morton that I had a problem with him calling me. So he said, New Jack, if you can piss them off to the point where they want to call you, he said, you're doing your job. You know what I mean? And I didn't see it like that at first because I was still green. So I really wasn't used to that kind of shit. You know what I mean? So if I could go and cut a promo and make white people mad enough to call me, then I was doing my job.
Okay. Well, at one point, I guess a little white kid walked up to you and rubbed your arm.
Yeah.
Tell me about that situation.
He came up to me and he rubbed my arm. And he was like, I asked him, I said, I thought he was gonna shake my hand, but he rubbed my arm. I said, why'd you do that? He was like, my daddy said if you get close enough to a black person and touch him, you'll turn black. And I was like, you know what I mean? And he turned around and ran. He ran away from me.
Okay. Did you ever have situations where you actually, punch someone in the audience for saying things like that?
I chased a guy out of the building one time. He was calling me, and I jumped out of the ring and chased him out of the building. And the cops were chasing me, and I was chasing him. You know what I mean? But he got away, so I never got him. But I mean, it was like they would do it, and it was just like it was a Georgia sport. They would do it all the time.
Oh, they would call you the N-word and then run out before you could catch them?
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember I just interviewed Mark Henry, and me and him were talking, and he said that he experienced the same type of thing sometimes, where dudes would call him the N-word, and he would actually confront some of the guys in the audience and be like, I'm gonna close my eyes, and you can go ahead and punch me as hard as you can. See what happens.
Right.
Yeah, man, it's unfortunate. And at one point, with the Rock and Roll Express, you guys actually recreated the Rodney King beating in reverse.
Yeah.
Whose idea was this?
That was my idea.
Okay.
And I told him, I said, Ricky, let's go and recreate the Rodney King beating. I said, but it's gonna be all of us beating the shit out of you. And he was like, okay, Jack, that'll work. So we did it. And white people lost their fucking minds.
Right. I mean, you would refer to white people as devils.
Yeah.
And so forth. I mean, I'm really trying to picture all this, especially in the 90s, where with racial tensions being what they were, it was probably pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Well, then your teammate Mustafa, was he crazy in real life, or it was just an act?
No, Mustafa was cool, man. We got along pretty good. Mustafa was cool.
All right, but at one point, I guess the rumor is that he was smoking pencil shavings.
Yeah. We was in a hotel room, and somebody came and got me out of the room. Came knocking on the door, And I went to the door, and they was like, Jack, Mustafa downstairs fighting the cops. And I was like, where? Is it down by the front desk? He's downstairs. So I went down there, and they had him down on the ground pent, and they were trying to handcuff him. You know what I mean? But he had been smoking pencil shavings the day before and that morning. And I always told him, I said, one day they're going to meet and it's going to clash in your head and you're going to go on the brain trip. And he did.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't even know what the hell happens if you try to smoke that. Did you ever try smoking it with him?
No.
Okay, so in the process of doing these matches, you guys had some interesting angles. At one point, you guys used affirmative action, where you could win on a 2 count instead of a 3 count.
I don't remember that.
You don't remember that?
No.
Okay, it's in my notes. But regardless, at one point, the NAACP started actually picketing your shows.
Yeah. Because
Okay.
I called them some homegrown monkeys. You know, we was cutting a promo, and I referred to NAACP as some homegrown monkeys, and they lost their goddamn mind, so they started picketing the show, and they went, and they would have like news reports. They had a camera crew come out there, and they would be talking to them, and they was like, the gangsters, what they doing is not right, and they shouldn't be allowed to be on TV. And I was just like, I don't give a. So I did my thing anyway.
Okay. So then at one point, you joined ECW.
Yeah.
Now, was ECW a bigger league than Smoky Mountain at that point, or no?
Yeah.
Okay. So you get called to join ECW, and how did the Smoky Mountain guys take to that?
They didn't like the idea of us leaving. They was just like, Jack, don't go now. You know what I mean? And I was like, my run is almost up here. ECW is paying me a lot more money, so I'm going to go ahead and go. So me and Jim Cornette, we kind of fell out at the time. We cool now, but we fell out at the time because I went on and jumped ship and went to ECW.
Okay. So what was different about ECW than Smoky Mountain?
ECW was nuts. I mean, it was like they would fly us in. We go to the hotel, go do a show. After the show, go back to the hotel, and all the fans would come down there to the bar with us, and we would just have a big ass party. You know what I mean? And I mean, it was nuts. It was more blood in ECW.
Okay. And did your matches get more bloody when you joined ECW, or were you already kind of doing that in Smoky Mountain?
No, they got bloody in ECW.
Okay. At what point did you start stapling people's foreheads?
I was suspended one time for doing something in the locker room. I got suspended. And I was helping my buddy lay carpet. And I had a staple gun, and I was stapling the carpet pad to the floor. And it just hit me. It clicked in my head. I was like, this would be a good tool to use in the ring. So I bought me a staple gun. When I went back to ECW, I had a staple gun, and I told the guy, I said, we're going to use the staple gun. And I had staples in it, but I wouldn't staple them. You know, I would act like I stapled, but I would staple the back of my hand. You know, so they went along with it. And I mean, you when you do that, I mean, I'm sure you know this by now. It's like when you bleed, you cut yourself with a razor. That's why my forehead looks like it does now. You know, but we would bleed, you cut yourself, and when I was stapling them, it looks like I'm stapling them, and then they come up and they get what we call it gigging. They would gig, and then they would bleed, and that was a whole big deal. And it went worldwide. Everybody started using staple gun after that.
Okay, but you weren't actually stapling their forehead. You were stapling your own hand?
Yeah.
How painful is that?
Yeah, I had tape on it.
Oh, okay. Got it. Got it. Okay. Well, and around that time, you said how you were basically snorting cocaine every night.
Just about.
Okay. At what point did your cocaine habit start?
We was at a bar one night, and I was drunk. I was drunk off my fucking ass. And one of the pit bulls was at the bar, and Sandman's girlfriend was at the bar, and she was like, "New Jack, what's wrong with you?" And I said, I'm fucking drunk." And she was like, "You ever did coke?" And at the time, I was like, "No." She said, "Well, Pitbull got some coke he'll give you, and that'll bring your drunk down." So I was like, "All right." So I went and tried it. And I was drinking the rest of that night up until it got morning. You know what I mean? And I was like, it did work. And after that, I started snorting.
Okay. And how bad did the habit get at one point?
I was doing like an ounce a weekend.
Okay. And to put in perspective, how much does an ounce cost?
About $1,200.
So you had a 5,000 a month habit.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So then, as you're part of ECW on November 23rd, 1996 in Massachusetts, you got paired up with a new wrestler named Mass Transit.
Right.
So tell me what led up to this match.
It was supposed to be me and Mustafa against Devon and Axel Rotten. But Axel had a death in the family, and he didn't show up. So this new kid that came up, and he was like, he wanted to get a tryout. So he was a big old fat white boy. And Paulie was like, we take a look at him, and he was like, "Jack, you want to work him?" And I was like, "I don't give a fuck who I work." I said, "I'll work anybody." So he put him with Devon. But the kid came up to me, and he was like, "New Jack, can I do some stuff to you in the match?" He said, my dad is in the audience. And he was like, "I want to get some stuff in." So I was like, no. And he was like, "Well, just let me get just a little bit of stuff in." And he said, "I want to bleed." But he said, I've never done it before. He said, "I never gave before. So will you do it for me?" And by then I was pissed off. I was like, "Yeah, I'll do it." So we got in the match, and the time came for him to bleed. And I had a surgical scalpel. I took it and I cut him in the head with it. And blood just shot out like everywhere. You know what I mean? And they stopped the match. The cops came. The ambulance came. Paulie rushed me out the back door. And I went back to Atlanta. And it was a few months later, they pressed charges on me. So I had to go surrender myself to Boston. And they locked me up.
Okay. Well, Mass Transit, his real name was Eric Kulas.
Yeah.
And he presented himself as, I guess, a 21-year-old as trained by this guy, Killer Kowalski.
Yeah.
But in reality, he was actually 17 years old.
Yeah.
Which nobody knew at the time.
Right.
So you go and cut him, and blood starts just squirting out. And then you announce, "I hope this fat piece of shit bleeds to death because I don't give a f-."
Right.
And as he's bleeding, you and Mustafa keep beating him up. You guys are like jumping off the top ropes and slamming him, lifting him up, and there's just it's just total mayhem.
Yeah.
And later on you said, "I was high, I didn't care, it didn't matter to me. The fans loved it. I thought it was great."
Yeah.
So you really didn't care what happened to him at that point?
No, I didn't.
Because it was his idea for you to cut him?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, as he's bleeding out, and I guess, they're calling for the ambulance or whatever, the father starts calling you the N-word.
Yeah. He came to the locker room, and the security guy wouldn't let him in the locker room, but I could hear him out there screaming, "New Jack, you cut my son, and this, that, and the other. So I told him, I said, let him back here. And they wouldn't. And then by now, Paulie was telling me to get my stuff and let's go. So I left the building.
Okay. Well, Mass Transit got 2 of his arteries in his head severed and 50 stitches.
Yeah.
You went to court over it, but you ended up beating it.
Right.
How did you beat it?
I had a good attorney. Jim Murberg was his name. He was a good attorney. And he basically took apart all the shit that Eric Kulo was saying had happened to him. He was lying about the stuff that had happened to him. And he just dissected the whole videotape that he had, and he took him apart.
And you were found not guilty?
Yeah.
How did that feel?
It was good. I ain't go to jail.
Okay. And I guess because of that incident, you couldn't go back to Boston for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Did people just want your head at that point?
No, the fans wanted me to come back.
Okay.
But it was the cops that they had a problem with me. You know, so finally I did end up going back to Boston, and it was unannounced that I was there. So my music hit, Natural Born Killers. When my music hit, I went to the ring, and the fans lost their minds. They were glad to see me back.
Okay, so what were the cops trying to say at that point? I mean, before?
They were just like, if you cut somebody again, you're going to jail, and we ain't gonna let you get away this time. And they were just with me, and I was just like, I ain't gonna cut nobody. You know, I'm like, I ain't gonna cut nobody. I got away with it one time. I ain't gonna cut nobody.
Okay. Did Mass Transit's family try to sue you civilly as well, or was it just a criminal case?
Yeah, civil. They came after me civil, but I had an attorney again, and he got it dismissed.
Okay. Mass Transit ended up dying in 2002 from a gastric bypass surgery. I guess that's like that surgery to make you skinnier.
Yeah.
Did you feel some type of way when he died?
No, I didn't.
Did you ever talk to him after that?
No.
No. But, I mean, by this point, was this the most gruesome thing that ever happened in wrestling, or was there worse incidences that you can compare it to?
No, this was ranked in the top.
In the top.
Yeah.
Okay. So then you continue in the ECW. I guess you formed the Gangstanators in 97?
There was some fans that came up with that name. I never called myself the Gangstanators. There was some fans came up with that stupid.
Okay. And then by 99, you were feuding with the Dudley Boys.
Yeah.
I mean, how was that whole experience in ECW after that whole situation?
I mean, the Mass Transit thing died down. You know, and I went back to being New Jack and doing what I was well known to do. And everybody went on their merry way, you know.
Okay. And then we fast forward to 2000. There was the Living Dangerously pay-per-view in Connecticut. And you had a match against Vic Grimes.
Right.
Talk about that situation.
Paulie wanted me and Vic to go through a table. Through 2 tables. And I was cool with it. I wasn't cool with going through 2 tables because it was a hazard. To go through 1 table is easy, but to try to go through 2, you don't know if the table gonna slip off the top table or what, and you don't know where you're gonna fall, where you're gonna land. So I didn't want to go through 2. But he went on and said, well, Jack, just go through 2 and everything will be fine. So I was like, all right. Just we'll do that. So Vic's ass, when I went and talked to him, he was like, I said, did you go and check the scaffold out? He was like, yeah, I went and checked it out. I said, is it okay? Because I was running late because it was snowing. And he was like, yeah, I checked it out and everything's fine, so we'll be all right. I'm like, all right. So when it came time for us to go off the scaffold, we got up top and Vic didn't want to go. And I was like, Vic, let's go on 3. And he was like, and then we having this conversation on pay-per-view, on TV live. You know what I mean? And he was like, Jack, I can't go, it's too high. I said, where we going? He said, I can't, it's too high. So I just pulled him down and he landed on top of me and he did a flip and his back leaned up against my head and it slammed my head into the floor. And I cracked my skull.
So from that fall, you had a broken leg, a skull fracture,
Right.
brain damage,
Right.
permanent insomnia,
Right.
permanent blindness in your right eye.
Right.
So you can't see out of your right eye at all.
No.
Okay. Was the scar on your forehead, did that come from that situation?
No. I cracked the back. I cracked my head in the back. The scars on my forehead, that was just years of cutting my head.
Okay. So you have this horrific fall. And how long were you in the hospital for?
Months.
Months. I guess there's memory loss and really bad headaches and everything else like that?
Yeah.
How mad were you when you basically woke up in the hospital?
I was pissed off. You know what I mean? I was pissed off. You know? And then it went a time he didn't he didn't call me to see how I was doing or nothing. The motherfucker let me sit there, you know? And I was sitting at home in the dark. You know what I mean? And when I went back to ECW, I walked up to Vic and I punched him in the goddamn face. You know? And I was like, you know, because I was pissed, you know what I'm saying?
Okay. What was that first reaction when you guys came face to face after that situation? I mean, apart from the face punching.
He was like, Jay, I didn't mean to do it. I'm sorry. I apologize. I didn't mean to do it. You know what I mean? But he had went for months and he didn't even call me. He never got in touch with me. And I was upset about it.
Okay. Was that the worst injury you'd ever had in your life?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So then in 2001, ECW declared bankruptcy.
Right.
So where was your career at that point?
I went on the indie circuit and just started taking bookings and traveling around, around the world, just doing my shows still.
Okay. So then in February 2002, you and Grimes have a rematch.
Right.
And you guys decide to jump off of a 40-foot scaffolding.
Yeah.
Okay. Before this, what was the highest jump you've ever done?
35 feet.
35 feet. Okay. Is this considered completely unusual in the wrestling world, or do people do this on a regular basis?
Nobody ever did it. I got the highest jump on record to this day, 35 feet.
35 feet.
But with this scaffold, I threw Vic off of the scaffold. It was 40 feet.
Okay. Now explain to someone who really doesn't know too much about this how a human being literally falls off 35 to 40 feet into a bunch of tables and walks away.
He was lucky.
No, I'm saying like on a not that particular match, because I want to get into that, but on a typical match, you're talking about jumping. I mean, even 15 feet is pretty damn high, but you're talking about 15, 20, 30, 35 feet. You fall, and what, the tables break your fall?
Well, he was supposed to fall through the tables, but I threw him past the tables. So he just clipped one. He barely hit one table, and he fell and he landed on the ropes.
Okay,
and that's what broke his fall.
In that particular situation with the 40-foot drop, there were 12 tables stacked on top of each other. So the idea was he fell on the first one, they were all kind of collapse and break the fall?
That's what was supposed to happen. But it didn't happen because I threw him over the table.
Okay, was that in retaliation for what he did?
Yeah.
Okay. And had he fell a little bit over, he would have been dead.
Yeah.
Okay. Were you trying to kill him?
Yeah.
Okay. Was he just totally terrified when you pushed him off at that point?
He was like, Jack, I can't feel my legs. I had a stun gun I bought. I went and bought a stun gun. So we was up on the scaffold. I started tasing him. And he was like, Jack, I can't feel my leg. I said, you ain't gonna need them. And I threw him. Like, bombs away. And the motherfucker hit the table. He clipped the table, and then he hit the ropes and fell back in the ring.
Okay. And I guess he ultimately didn't really hurt himself that much. I guess he dislocated his ankle and a couple other small injuries, but falling off 40 feet, like literally being thrown 40 feet off the air, I mean, that's just the act of God right there, the fact that he's not dead or seriously crippled.
Yeah.
Okay. And was that the biggest fall in wrestling history?
Yeah.
40 feet.
Yep.
Okay. When you're standing up there and you look down 35, 40 feet, what actually gets you to do that, to do that slam or that jump at that point?
I mean, we had planned it, so he knew he was going. He just didn't know where he was going to land. And I threw him, and he landed, like I said, he clipped one table, and he hit the ropes and fell back in the ring. You know what I mean? But I didn't give a where he landed. I wanted to die.
Okay. What was the conversation like afterwards?
There wasn't one. There wasn't one.
So that was it. Basically, after that, you never spoke again.
Nope.
Okay. Did he ever speak about it publicly?
Somebody said he went on Hannibal TV and was leaving comments after the interview I did 2 weeks ago with Hannibal. And they said that he was commenting about the fall or whatever, you know what I mean? But he never said anything to me.
Well, then in April 2003, you get a match against Gypsy Joe, who was 69 at the time or 71. I can't quite figure out the age, but around 70 years old. This is a senior citizen. And I guess this was billed Gypsy Joe, who had been wrestling for like at that point 60 years or something.
Yeah.
Or like 50 something. He's been wrestling for 50 something years, and he was billed as the man that feels no pain.
Yeah.
Okay. Why would you even wrestle an old man like this?
Okay. I told the promoter that I didn't want to do this match. But he was like, no, New Jack, it'll be fine. You know, y'all just go out there and have a good time and won't nobody get hurt, nothing, whatever. And I was like, I didn't want to, I told him, I said, I don't want to work him. He was like, no, he's cool with it. So I was like, all right. I was like, all right, just whatever you're going to do, we're going to do it. So we went, and he came up to me and he was like, Jack, he said, just listen to me. I can teach you a lot. And I was like, you talking to me? He was like, yeah, just listen to me and I'll teach you a lot. Don't worry about it, kid. I got you. And when he said that, I lost it. So we got in the ring and we started. He was no selling my punches. I was throwing punches. It wasn't registering. I would kick him. It wasn't registering. I headbutt him. He wasn't doing nothing. He wasn't selling it. And I was like, okay, this shit. You know what I mean? So it was a bat laying in the ring. I went in the ring, got that bat, had barbed wire wrapped around it. And I walked up to him and started hitting him in the head with it. And I picked up the chairs and threw the chairs on top of him. You know? He didn't have no business being in the ring with me. I understand he was 70-something years old, but he didn't have no business being in the ring with me. And I showed his ass that he didn't belong there.
Okay, and I guess in the process of you beating this old man down, like the audience started calling you the N-word and everything else like that.
It was in Tennessee, yeah.
Okay, which made you more mad.
Yeah.
So you just beat him harder.
Yeah.
I mean, how does anyone really survive a hit to the head with a barbed wire bat?
Got a hard head.
Okay. Okay. How badly was he messed up when you were done?
He just had a couple of knots on his head. He was all right.
He was all right?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you ever talk to him afterwards?
No.
No. So then in 2004, you started wrestling for the Thunder Wrestling Federation. And you were wrestling a guy named Hunter Red.
Yeah.
What happened in that situation?
We were supposed to talk over the match. I told Hunter Red, I was sitting out in the audience and there was a few people there. And I told him, I said, let's talk about what we're gonna do in the match. And he was like, I do whatever. And I was like, all right. I'm like, just let's go in the back and talk about it. He was like, no, I don't need to talk about it. I do whatever. He said, whatever you want to do, I'll do it. So I was like, all right, no problem. So he went in the ring. He got in the ring with me, and we locked up. And he backed me up and started punching me in the face. Well, some people knew that I carried a knife in the ring. A few people knew. And I had it in my pocket that night. And when he started punching me, I grabbed the rope. He was trying to pick me up and dump me. I grabbed the rope and I pulled the knife out and started stabbing him. It was like 9 times. On TV, on the news, they said it was 16, but it was 9. It was only 9.
Okay, and you're actually stabbing him like in the back of the head?
I stabbed him everywhere. I stuck him everywhere.
Okay. And I guess there's only like 30, 40 people in the audience.
Yeah,
it was
empty.
It was empty. But I mean, I remember seeing the dark side of the ring. Like you see the audience and people were like holding their hands over their mouths, like just terrified that this was happening.
Yeah.
And someone called the police.
Yep.
The police showed up, guns drawn.
Yep.
Were you worried at all that you were going to get shot at that point? Here you are in what, Tennessee? Wait, where were you at the time?
Florida.
In Florida.
Yeah.
Okay, even worse. Here you are in Florida. You just stabbed up a white man, and the police show up, not really knowing the situation. Well, how'd you feel at that point?
I knew I was going to jail. So I just dropped down to my knees with my hands over my head, and I was just like, all right, y'all got me. Just whatever, take me to jail.
Okay. And I guess one of the cops asked you why you hate white people so much.
He did.
Okay, what'd you answer?
I started laughing.
All right. So then you get charged with a couple of felonies, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, aggravated assault to commit murder.
Yeah. So
you're actually facing potential murder charges. Well, I mean, attempted murder charges. But the guy you were wrestling actually didn't press charges against you.
No, he didn't.
Okay. So what was the conversation like after you guys talked?
He came out of the jail and he was like, New Jack. He said, I asked him, I said, why are you here? He said, I want to talk to you. He said, I'll drop the charges if you take me on the road with you and train me, and we could go around Florida and do the Florida circuit, and we can have this match like Hunter Red is after New Jack. And I told him, I said, you got to drop the charges first. He was like, all right, I'll do it. So he went down there to the courthouse and dropped the charges, and I went to court, and they dismissed it, and I got out. And I left Florida. I moved from Florida. I left that same day. I left and got out of there.
Did you ever come back?
Yeah, I went back.
Okay. So after that situation, what happened next with your career?
I went on the indie circuit.
Okay. And you continued to wrestle. You know, there was an article that came out in 2012 in Bleacher Report. It was about the Extreme reunion in 2012, and it said New Jack is scheduled to appear, but he shouldn't be allowed to wrestle there or anywhere. Throughout his career, New Jack has proved that he is a dangerous, sadistic maniac. Wrestlers should be afraid to step in the ring with New Jack. There have been too many times where his matches have devolved into a legitimate attack.
So what? I don't give a so what? But I tell you what I did do. You know, you know who Bootsy Collins is, right?
Of course.
Okay. Bootsy made me a video. We did a song together. Who'd y'all come to see? New Jack. And it's on YouTube. You can check it out. And I had asked Paulie, would he change my music to that song? And he wouldn't do it. But he still gave me the rights to the video. And we did it, and it turned out good. So I just want to give it a little plug. Snoop Dogg.
Well, there was a situation, I guess in 2015, where you had an incident. I guess it's called the American Gangsters incident.
Oh, that wasn't
You know what I'm
nothing.
talking about? It wasn't nothing.
No. It was just, we had a match with these kids, and we just them up. You know what I mean? They wanted to bleed, so I gave them, and they was just like, they was fine with it.
Okay, so in general, like, who decides if someone bleeds before a match?
Your opponent.
Okay, so he says, okay, I want to bleed.
Yeah.
All right. And typically you use a small razor?
Yeah. Or a surgical scaffold.
And you've been cut how many times in your forehead?
Hundreds.
Hundreds?
Yeah.
Okay. And that was something you agreed to do beforehand?
Yeah.
How many people did you cut?
About 4.
Okay.
4 or 5.
Okay. Was there a point? I mean, because at one point you announced retirement, but then you came back and did more matches.
I retired in 2013, and I sat at home for 2 years, bored. I didn't have shit to do. I was like, I'm going back to wrestling. So I went back.
Okay. Are you still wrestling?
No, I had surgery on my ankle. My ankle's been in a brace for like 2 years.
Okay. And that's what caused you to finally retire.
Yeah.
There was a video that came out where you, the Iron Sheik, and Honky Tonk Man were talking about the Chris Benoit double murder and suicide.
Yeah.
Did you know Chris Benoit at all?
Yeah, I knew that.
Okay. So for those that don't know, Chris Benoit killed his wife and his 7-year-old son and then killed himself.
Right.
And when it happened, I guess certain, wrestling stars were trying to defend him and so forth.
Yeah.
But you felt very differently.
Yeah.
How did you feel?
Nancy and I were friends. And we was cool when we would do shows in Philly mainly. We go to the bar. And after she had a few drinks, she was like, New Jack, you walk me to my room? You know what I mean? And I was like, I said, Nancy, I got you, don't worry about it. So I'll walk her to her room and make sure she got in the room all right, and I'll go back to the bar. And we would travel together sometimes. And when he killed her, it didn't register to me that that's who he had killed. Because they kept saying the wife of Chris Benoit. They never said her name, and I didn't put 2 and 2 together. So finally when I did, I was like, that mother, and I was like, for everybody that's got something good to say about it, they can suck my, you know what I mean? I was like, I'm not going to that mother's aid. I'm not going to be standing behind him, talking about how good of a wrestler he was. I think he's a piece of shit. And everybody that didn't agree with me, I told them, y'all can all eat my ass. I don't give a fuck about none of you.
That's an absolutely horrific story. And along with that story, people tried to pin him doing that on CTE and brain damage, concussions, and so forth. But you don't feel any of that related to
he never got hit in the head. I'll show you tapes of Benoit putting his hand up in the way of taking a chair shot. You know what I mean? He never got hit in the head. So there was maybe steroids, but it wasn't no guy that you just mentioned. It wasn't that. That never happened.
Well, in the process of this conversation, that kind of developed over Chris Benoit, you had made a comment that, ECW was seen as violent and dangerous, but only one person died while you were there, whereas WWE has about 3 people die a year.
Yeah.
Who died in ECW?
Louis Pagoli.
How did he die?
Pills. Overdose. Okay.
How many people have died in WWE?
A few. A lot.
Okay. Because you had mentioned that Vince McMahon had blood on his hands and he keeps getting away with murder.
Yeah.
Explain that.
I mean, okay. Owen Hart, when he died. Okay. He died at a show in the ring. And Vince still had the show. The show went on. And his wife sued him. I think she sued him. You know what I mean? But it was like every time something would happen with one of his wrestlers, he would brush it over like it didn't happen. You know what I mean? And time would go by, and he's like, okay, we'll let that go away, whatever. You know what I'm saying? And I was just like, how in the fuck is this guy, every time somebody dies, he gets away with it? And that's why I said he had blood on his hands. Because so many people kept dying in that company, and they just had a guy die like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I remember Vince was on Real Sports like a long time ago, and they were asking about all the people who died and so forth. And I remember he got mad and like hit the guy's paper out of his hands.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
No.
When you talk about the WWE, you've never been a part of that.
No.
I guess you made a comment that you heard that when speaking about you, Vince said that he wouldn't hire you because he can't control you.
Right.
Okay, do you believe that?
Yeah.
Okay. But on the flip side, people also look at you as you being a financial liability, with the stuff that you do. I mean,
true.
Suing Smoky Mountain is a whole lot different than suing the WWE. You're not going to get very much out of Smoky Mountain.
No.
Or the ECW, which ended up going bankrupt. But
right.
The WWE is a multi-billion-dollar corporation. Right. I believe it's a public corporation. You can buy stock in WWE.
Yeah.
What do you think overall about Vince McMahon?
I think he's a piece of shit. Plain and simple, he's a piece of shit.
And why is that exactly?
Because of all the stuff that he's done. You know what I mean? He'll bring people in, and when their run is up, he'll embarrass them. He'll maybe go out and have a match, and it'll be some degrading ass shit. You know what I'm saying? And that's what he's known for. They had him on that one night where he called somebody with John Cena. And I was just like, what the And he continues to do that shit, and he continues to get away with it. And I'm just like, what, dude? I mean, I wouldn't last 2 weeks in WWE.
Well, I remember I interviewed Mark Henry, who was, a big star in WWE. And we talked about a situation where there was a storyline where they were referring to the black wrestlers as silverback gorillas.
Yeah.
And he approached Vince about this, and he said that Vince supported him and asked him to approach the writers, and they got it taken out. But overall, Mark spoke highly about Vince and the organization. Do you feel that WWE is a racist organization when it comes to the black wrestlers?
Yeah, because they always got the black guy doing stupid shit. You know what I'm saying? They come out dancing and tap dancing and wearing dresses and eating cereal and all that silly ass shit. You know what I mean? The motherfucker is like retarded.
Okay. So if you were asked to join the WWE and do some matches, you wouldn't do it?
No.
Okay. What do you think about wrestling these days compared to when you were doing it?
I don't watch it.
Don't watch it at all?
No.
Okay. And why is that?
I have no interest in it. I have no interest none whatsoever in it.
Gotcha. Before the interview, I asked some of my followers on Twitter a couple questions to ask you, and a couple came up. One asked about Gold Dust's ex-wife and you.
We dated for like a year and a half. That was it.
Okay.
I mean, I know people got mad about it because they were like, how did they get that girl? How did they get that girl? You know what I'm saying? I know people were pissed off about it, but I didn't give a and it lasted for a year and a half and it went away.
Okay, and this is Terry Runnels?
Yeah.
Okay, very pretty lady.
Yeah.
Okay. Why do you think people are so pissed off about it?
Come on, man. There's this chick that's a family chick, got the daughter and she's wholesome, supposedly, but she's full of shit. You know what I mean? And they're like, how did New Jack get her? And they were hating me. People hated me because of that, and I thought it was the funniest shit in the world. You know what I mean?
Well, when you say she's supposed to be wholesome, but she's full of shit, what does that mean?
I mean, I ain't gonna talk bad about her. I could, but I'm not gonna talk bad about her. We was in a relationship for a year and a half, and it didn't work, so we parted ways.
There you go.
There you go. She was a good ass nigga.
Alrighty then. A little more information than I need to know, but hey, it is what it is. She is going to be so angry when she sees this. Let me tell you, her and Gold Dust are going to throw they're going to throw something against the wall like when they see this. Did you know Gold Dust at all?
Yeah, I knew it.
Yeah, did you guys talk after you dated his ex-wife?
She would take me by the house sometime with her. And I'd be like, what the f is wrong with you?
Woo, okay. All right. Another question I got was, I guess there was a confrontation between you and Kevin Nash.
Kevin, one day we had doing a signing, and Kevin was there and I was there. And I walked up behind him and playfully put my arm around his neck like I was choking him. I let him go. He looked at me, he said, New Jack. I was like, what's up, Kevin? He said, nothing, man, how you been? I ain't seen you in a long time. I said, Kevin, come to think of it, we never met. I said, this is my first time ever seeing you. I said, but I've heard you say some interesting things about me because there was a deal with Master P when he came to WCW. They wanted me to be a part of Master P's group. But Kevin Nash was on booking committee. He shot it down. He was like, no, New Jack's a liability. We can't bring him in. So no, we're not gonna do it. So they didn't bring me in because of that. And we spoke about it, but it was just like, what the ever, man. It's like, just you was being you and I'm being me. So just, and I went away.
That was that.
Yeah.
Okay. Because they're saying that he tells a slightly different story.
I don't give what he said. I mean, there's his story, there's his side, and there's my side.
There you go. A lot of people watched the movie The Wrestler. Did you see it?
Yeah.
With Mickey Rourke. Great movie, by the way.
Yeah.
And the one thing that kind of stood out from that movie, as someone who's not like a big time wrestling fan, was, it showed this wrestler who was now aging, really almost at the very end of his career.
Right.
And you see him at one of those conventions, and he's looking around at all the other wrestlers who are signing autographs, taking pictures. One of them's in a wheelchair. One of them's leg is completely messed up. You yourself, your ankles were messed up. And, you had a fractured skull. You had all types of damage throughout the course of your life. When you look back on wrestlers who really sacrifice their bodies in the way that they do, what do you think about it now?
It's best to have insurance. Get you some good life insurance, good health insurance.
Do you regret any of the stuff that you did in the ring now as you're older?
No.
None at all. Okay. But you have braces on your ankles.
I got a brace on my right ankle.
Your right ankle.
I mean, it's not a brace, it's a boot. Because I had surgery in November. So I've been wearing the boot now for like 6 months, 7 months.
Okay. Is it coming off at one point?
Yeah.
Will you go back to the ring after it comes off?
I might.
Okay.
I can still go. I can still go, bro.
Yeah, I bet.
No.
You signed up for it.
Yeah.
You said in the Dark Side of the Ring documentary, the way you would want your movie to end is you in a wheelchair snorting a bunch of coke.
That's how I wanted to end. With a handful of...
Do you still partake, or have you kicked the habit?
No, I stopped doing it years ago.
Okay, what made you stop?
My heart.
You had a heart attack?
No, I'm on heart medicine. I'm on heart medication.
Oh. Do you think it's because of the cocaine?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I had a friend of mine overdose and die off cocaine at 23.
Yeah.
That made me never want to take it.
Right.
I remember being at the funeral, and this is a 23-year-old who I grew up with, dead. And this was like, by the time he died from that heart attack, I had heard that this was like his third heart attack. Mm-hmm. He just happened to be in Vegas in a hotel room, and there was no one there to resuscitate him. Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Yeah, it is.
Did you have any really crazy stories when you were high? I mean, outside of the mass transit incident and so forth?
Not really. I mean, I did it. I mean, I had my share of doing coke. You know what I'm saying? I mean, but I don't have any crazy stories, no.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to, for example, my friend DJ Paul, from 3-6 Mafia. We were, he's done cocaine various times throughout his life. And the one thing he explained to me was, like, when it comes to something like a coke, like a cocaine, when you feel yourself starting to take too much, you could stop. But when you look at all the kids that are dying from pills these days, once you take a pill, it's over.
Yeah.
You have no control over that at that point.
Right.
That's why you're seeing all these pill overdoses. When you look back on your career, what do you think you're the most proud of?
I got action figures. And my Bootsy Collins video. That's what I did.
Is there anything in your career that you feel that you would change if you could?
No.
You stand behind everything.
Yep.
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 Well, New Jack, a hell of a story, a hell of a life. Like I said, when I went and asked who I should interview next after doing Mark Henry, which was my first wrestler interview, everyone was asking for New Jack.
Right.
And when I read the story and when I saw the documentary and everything, it was like, okay, this is definitely right along the lines of VladTV here.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your story, man. And, it started off with a lot of hardship, but it seems like you took all that pain from your childhood and turned it into something.
Yeah.
Well, I wish you all the best, man. I hope to see you back in the ring at some point.
All right. Thank you, man.
No doubt. Until next time.
Take it easy.
Peace.